All right, bettors, we're back at it again. Joe the Fan here with Shano Mack. Shano, of course, before we introduce the GOAT, the UFL GOAT here, we will talk a little bit of hockey. We've got some single bets there. And did you say a 2-unit bet again on the 60-minute? What's going on there?
I only said one unit. I actually did a 2-unit bet on the money line straight up, but I did a 1-unit bet on the 60-minute. That was my official bet. But yeah, hockey picks have been doing great so far. So far in the Stanley Cup Finals, my picks are 8-2. Tonight we have the Panthers 60-minute money line. Game is just the first puck drop just came down. It's about a minute and a half into the game. I also took Marchand and Bouchard over in shots and goal, and then Bobrovsky over in saves. So those are the 4 things we're looking for tonight in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I took the Panthers again because they dominated Game 3. They looked like a way better team, outclassed the Oilers pretty much. It was kind of a scrappy game. They had 140 penalty minutes, something like that. So, but that's the Panthers game. They're a much more physical team, and when they play like that, they're a different animal at home.
Wow. On my end, we've got MLS, only the one game here, of course, with New York City taking on they're hosting, of course, Atlanta United. Still 0-0 as they head into the halftime. We have our FIFA Club World Cup. It'll be the first time they're doing this, and that will be our bets. I just completed it, so the studio's working on the graphic right now, so it'll be up shortly. CFL, there's a game that's going to be on later on as the CFL JD Money has a bet going on there. And we've got some college baseball for this weekend, Friday and Saturday. So we've got Adam, the Ace of Diamonds, who was fantastic in the Super Regionals, and now we hit the Elite 8. But before we get to our guests, we want to point out our website is coming together, and we got our hats. They just came in. I kind of like the like I said, I like the Redskin one, the black one, and of course the charcoal one that came out here. We've got some more stuff that's coming on, so we're going to be selling those on our website very, very shortly. So we bring in, of course, no other than the UFL GOAT. Went 1-1 last week. How are you, my friend?
Hey, not doing too bad. Ready for another week of football. One more.
My friend, we've got, of course, I've got something. I got to send that to you. We'll talk off the air and make sure we get that to you. But before we get to the title game, let's recap what happened last week. You went Michigan. It was the Michigan Panthers taking on the defending champions of Birmingham Stallions, and a nice call there. Shano and I got that at plus 115. Very good football that was going there. We'll get to your comments on that in just a second. But also another one, which I had a lot of, I know we were texting off the air here against the the DC Defenders taking on, it was an away game at the St. Louis Battlehawks. I had a lot of comments there, as you know, they're GOAT. But let's go one game at a time. What's your thoughts on the first game?
The first game, the Panthers versus the Stallions. So I called it. Unstoppable, Perkis power. He was just doing whatever he wanted on the field. I couldn't find the broken tackles, but it had to have been at least like 9 for him. Like, he really efficient in the passing game. The stat of the game to look at for that was 80% completion percentage by him, 20 for 25. Pretty much doing whatever he wanted on the field. And that triple option is just so hard to stop whenever you have Perkins basically doing his Lamar Jackson. You have Toatawa ramming it up the middle. And there, a lot of the passing game, you saw they were just killing them in the flats. The short passing game, because they didn't know what to prepare for the run, and it was leaving holes open, and then it was opening stuff up down the field. They just didn't have an answer for him.
They had a nice tight end to include part of that Michigan offense. And just like you said there, it was unstoppable. It was either two with a running back or it was just they just go a straight split zone for some of those nice runs, and they RPO'd it right to the tight end on the flat.
Yep, there was just so much open because so much attention was put on Perkins and the running game.
And like I was thinking, I was like, it kind of sucks for the UFL because I think Perkins just won an NFL roster spot with just that performance alone. I mean, he looked incredible. Like I think some team's going to swoop in and pick him up and get him an NFL roster spot.
Hopefully the Ravens. I'd love to see him backing up Lamar Jackson because they have Cooper Rush right now, who is pretty much the opposite of Lamar Jackson. So it'd be really cool to get him in that system and see what he can do. What team wouldn't want a mobile backup that makes good decisions on the field? You know, I think he's a fit for pretty much all 32 teams. I think we'll definitely see him in camp and maybe even get a guaranteed contract.
Maybe not just the Ravens, but also the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know they just recently signed Aaron Rodgers to the $13 million base salary and a massive number of incentives. But we talked about where the Steelers last year, Justin Fields, they're trying to do that little mobile quarterback. And I agree with you, Goat. When it comes to Washington, they've got that mobile quarterback. Lamar Jackson, of course, in Baltimore, just to name a few. But, you know, I think he would play well with that, or maybe a Cleveland Brown.
They don't have enough quarterbacks already.
Right. Right. My surprise, the thing that I was very surprised about in the first game is, and maybe in both games, was the lack of catches. I mean, there's guys wide open, and it's just like drop them like they couldn't catch a cold.
Yeah, we saw a lot of running game, though. The running game was really taken over, especially for, well, we'll get into it with the St. Louis versus DC game, but the running game really played a heavy part in this, and that's any playoff scenario, any league. You want to take care of the ball, and if you can run it and play good defense, it's going to give you a huge advantage in a playoff setting.
Shano, being a former O-line player in college, Shano, what did your thoughts on the Michigan O-line? I thought they played a hell of a game.
Yeah, they played a great game. I mean, like the UFL GOAT said, the rushing game was there. And then that mobile quarterback always like helps out the offensive line and the rushing game get going because it keeps the defense on their toes, right? They don't know who's getting the ball. That triple option is deadly to face. Yeah, I thought they played a great game, great overall game. It's going to be interesting going against the Defenders. Defenders have a really good defense. We'll see what happens in the championship game. But we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, overall they played awesome.
And another stat with the rushing game is Toatawa, not one, not two, but 3 rushing touchdowns in that game. He was just carving them up.
Yeah. And there were, of course, some turnovers in that game. And you're playing a semifinal, or you're playing, if you're comparing it to the NFL, any type of playoff game, can't turn the ball over, man. And which brings me up to the next game, the St. Louis Battlehawks against the DC Defenders. Now the Defenders have moved on to the final game. I got to be honest with you, when I saw this GOAT, and I know, like I said, you and I were texting pretty much through the whole game. I don't know who was calling the offense on, with the St. Louis Battlehawks. I mean, it looked like, it reminded me of, a peewee, team. And that's why I see a BRYC team who couldn't even, running a double wing. I just didn't understand the logic behind the offense.
Well, it was a different game than I expected, and it was definitely a different game than Anthony Beck expected. He came in and he stuck to his game plan, and it just was, he was unable to make the adjustments necessary. I respect sticking to your game plan, but that was a nightmare scenario for them. Going down 14-0 when you're predominantly a run-first team that plays good defense.
Right.
He wasn't as aggressive as he needed to be in that game. I like that he brought in Silvers. I thought he brought in Silvers way too late, and I would have included Silvers in the game plan a lot more. Just from the start, I would have been using Brandon Silvers and been using Dugan in a lot of packages. As far as the gameplay, though, it was kind of what I expected, other than DC coming out extremely aggressive and getting that score off the bat. That was very important to get that score through the air, because if you look at it, they were the ones running the ball. I thought it was going to be a running game, taking care of the ball
Mhm.
and limiting mistakes. And it was after the 14-0 start, but it was DC and not even Abram Smith, who we mentioned last week, but Deion Jackson is a new name to watch in the UFL. He'll probably get a camp invite as well. 110 yards on the ground, 21 carries, 2 touchdowns. He was running all over them. And the most surprising thing for me in that game was that the St. Louis defense was run all over. I thought that St. Louis had a huge advantage with their pass rush, with their defense, their passing game. I thought that St. Louis defense was going to be a lot better in that game. Te'amu was really doing whatever he wanted on them.
You mentioned the Battlehawks with a very productive defensive end taking on that right tackle, who was lined up against the right tackle, who was, didn't have that much experience. I thought he was going to have a field day, against the defenders. Shayna, what was your thoughts on, shed some light on the subject of the Battlehawks and the defenders?
Yeah, I was going to break down it because right before he said that, like everybody thought Abram Smith, he was starting to get a little bit better coming off that injury from the previous year. And he still had a decent bit game. He still had 64 rushing yards, and I think he averaged just under 5 yards a clip. I think it was like 4.8, 4.9 yards a clip, which is still pretty good. But yeah, Deion Jackson, he showed up big for the defenders, big, 110 yards. And so when you get a running game going like that, when you have 110 yards from one guy and 60, 65 from another, that's a dominant run game, and it shows like why they pulled away from that game.
So here's the thing that really bothers me, and we were both former coaches ourselves, Shano and I. Okay, I believe in discipline, no matter what, in anything that you do, especially in the football field. You have to be disciplined. You saw one of the defender, bad call. Hey, but you got to keep your composure. This is something you cannot afford to do, especially in the championship game that's going to take place this Saturday night.
Yeah, I really thought that the St. Louis pass rush was going to get to Te'amu and force him into a lot of mistakes.
Right.
Only one interception, and it looked like a bad read or a wrong route. But I really thought, you have Defensive Player of the Year, Peter Tamianu, coming off the edge, and Willie Harvey had the only sack in the game. 1 sack. That's the stat for this game, is 1 sack for that St. Louis pass rush. Willie Harvey had the only sack, but he had 15 tackles. This is another guy NFL needs to get him in a camp next year.
Yeah, and then to go along with that sacks too, I mean, when you have a run game that's going like the defender's run game was, that tends to slow down that pass rush too, though, right? Because those DNs aren't flying up the field as much as they usually do, because if they do, it open up even bigger holes for those running backs to go upfield. So that could have been an advantage for the defenders there, to slow down that pass rush, because they got that rushing game going.
The DC defenders are the most organized offense in the UFL, and they prove that. Even with a quarterback like Te'amu, who's prone to turnovers, they take care of the ball, and their running plays are really opening up the holes for their running backs. They're really smart with the routes they're running.
So it brings us now to this Saturday night, 8:00, only on ABC, where we have the Michigan Panthers taking on the DC Defenders. I know, Shano, you're leaning towards the Defenders, correct?
I don't know. Bryce Perkins looks good, but I can't go against my Defenders. I'm a big Defenders fan. I love them. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I'll have to hear what GOAT says first, and then I'll make my pick.
Let's go to the GOAT now. The Michigan Panthers with the DC Defenders. Break it down for us, my friend.
Well, first thing to look at, we got the 2024 Coach of the Year, Mike Nolan, versus the freshly announced 2025 Coach of the Year, Shannon Harris. These are two really well-organized, well-run teams, and I really don't think we could ask for a better matchup. Get to do that, my call on the DC Defenders versus St. Louis game. I took St. Louis winning by 1. I don't know how much of that was just trying to will them into the championship. I think that played a part, trying to get St. Louis in there. But we couldn't ask for a better matchup than this. I'm really glad that this worked out this way. We have two incredible offenses, two incredible quarterbacks. I just posted on Twitter that I was asking Grok about the QB comparisons, and it turned out Jalen Hurts for Teomu versus Lamar Jackson for Perkins. So we have our version of Jalen Hurts versus Lamar Jackson. Really exciting matchup, and this is one that's going to be hard to predict because both of these teams are so hot right now, and really well-rounded in a lot of categories.
That's actually not a bad comparison for both of them. I've Grok said that off X. That's not a bad, not bad by them for AI. AI's doing better. Look at that.
So what it did was it took their statistics over 10 games and expanded it to 17. So pretty interesting.
The game opened up with a -3 for the Panthers at -115. It's now at -110, only at FanDuel, but 3.5 at Caesars, -110. The over under on that, where the total of it started off at 49.5. It's now up to 50.5. So and with plus money, so 50.5 on FanDuel. If you want to go over 50.5 points at plus 100, under 50.5 is at -110 only on Caesars. Your thoughts on maybe where are you leaning towards this when hearing the odds here? Go.
Well, I'm really excited for this matchup. Like I said, I think it's hard to predict, but I got to defend DC. We got to get that White House visit. I think the DC is the hot hand to play right now. I already placed my bet. That's how confident I am. I'm going plus 140 on it. I just think they're the more complete team.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
Get the Defenders championship. Yeah, I was currently Joe DeFan, while you were looking up the stats, I was currently on DraftKings. I was trying to see what it's currently at on there, and plus 142 for the Defenders money line. Panthers are -170 for money line bet.
I'm going to do you one better there, Shano. I'm going to go Caesars at plus 158.
Woo!
A money line.
Big payday.
I might do a little pizza on that. A little pizza on that.
Pizza Hut, UFL sponsor.
Exactly. No anchovies.
Gotta rep them. Gotta rep them.
No anchovies. But yeah,
sauce. I'm a sausage guy.
So the over under is like you said, is right at 50. What do you think about that, Goat? What do you think? How many points do you think will be scored in this game? I know we got two good offenses, like you said. Bryce Perkins is good, and then the Defenders just put up a bunch of points against the St. Louis Battlehawks. So
50 points at 25 points apiece, huh? I honestly think that's a little bit high for a championship game. Defense wins championships. Both of these offenses are more than capable of scoring, but they're both very complete teams, and I think they're both going to play good defense and really be countering each other a lot. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I would play the under there, though.
interesting. All right, so again, that game is Saturday at 8:00, only on ABC. It'll be the Michigan Panthers. They're listed at the home team, but then the Defenders, of course, being an away team. Now, where is this event taking place there, Goat? I'm assuming it's not taking place in Michigan.
Yeah, so it's a neutral site, and they already selected St. Louis at the Battle Dome again, where we played our playoff game last week. That's why I really wanted to see St. Louis get in there, have the home field advantage for the championship. But yeah, so this is 2 years in a row that they've played in St. Louis, and I think they've really been hoping that the Battlehawks get in there for the championship. I think next year they should do somewhere else. It would be good to mix it up a little bit. And maybe even bring them back to Campton. That's where the USFL played all of their championship games. And then the XFL, that's another thing I wanted to mention. So we had the end of one dynasty with the St. Louis Battlehawks, but this might be the beginning of a new dynasty where the DC Defenders in 3 seasons have made the championship twice. They were in the XFL championship against the Arlington Renegades back in 23. And they were unstoppable that year. They were, I believe, 9-1. Their only loss was, ironically, to the 1-9 Orlando Guardians, led by Quentin Dormandy. But yeah, this is really looking like a powerhouse organization, and those fans are very spoiled to be making their second championship appearance this weekend.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
go ahead, Chino.
Well, I was saying, hopefully we don't turn into the Buffalo Bills of the XFL or the UFL, so we get to the championship and actually win one, and not just make it all the time.
I was going to say that if you didn't, so I'm glad you did.
We're here with the UFL GOAT. GOAT, before we let you go, any players to look out for? Maybe some player props. Those numbers don't come out until later in the week. But since we have you, any particular players besides Perkins that you or someone from the defenders that you may want to look at?
Yeah, I would definitely take Toatawa to score a touchdown. That might even be like a -110 or something with how he's been playing. I'd have to see what the odds are and stuff like that. But Chris Rowland's a guy who's gonna get quite a few catches and yards for the defenders. Like I said, Deion Jackson is a guy to look for to maybe get 100 yards rushing in this game. Bryce Perkins can really run the ball, but it depends on how much he has to. If they're in control of the game, he's just going to be handing the ball off. But if they need him, as we saw, he only had 32 yards or so rushing in the championship game, the USFL championship game. But on some of he had half of those yards on one play. It was a 3rd and 15. And of course, he just runs it, breaks 2 tackles, walks up. It was the easiest 3rd and 15 run I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's just how good he is. But how does that translate to stats? It depends on the game flow. I would definitely take him to score a touchdown in this game. And like I said, Toatawa and Jordan Taylor might throw an interception.
Interesting. I like to see the stats on that one. You can catch a lot of the prop bets we use, Shano, is ESPN bet. There's some on FanDuel, some on Caesars now. They're starting to do it. So it's starting to get a little bit more popular. The sport, of course, is starting to expand. Very similar to the WNBA. It's starting to launch itself. But I like the product. I question the play calling, again, as a former offensive coordinator, on different levels in high school. So I'm a little biased, but like I said, I think it was a close game. And this is something, Chino, that you mentioned to me during the week, that the GOAT had it spot on. It was going to be close, but what was the comment that you stated?
GOAT, you said the Panthers by at least touchdown for the other one. And if you took that, so it was because it was a pick'em game at the time of kickoff. It was a pick'em game, pretty much. The spread was. So if you did an alt line of the Panthers -6.5, I believe it was at like plus 230. So I mean that's a pretty big payout if you followed GOAT's advice on that one. So going back to Toatoa, I saw a picture of him on Twitter or X with the shirt off. That dude is jacked. just side note, he is massive.
Like T.O. jacked.
No wonder he got 3
in the driveway.
Yeah. I was like, no wonder he got 3 touchdowns last time. That dude looks like he's like Hercules. I mean, he is just dude is jacked like out of his mind.
All right, well, GOAT, thank you very much. Pleasure having you on the show here. Just to recap what the GOAT just said, he is taking the DC Defenders money line, and the best price you can get that at plus 158 only at Caesars Palace. So if you're able to do that, so you have DraftKings at plus 142. So a little bit of a change. You always want to get the best number there. And he's leaning towards under 50.5 at -110.